Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Big Cat Motor Vlogs. And you may know that Indian has just been sold off. And I don't know, let's talk about that a little bit. I don't know that I have any really illuminating thoughts about it, but I do have a couple of thoughts, and we'll just talk a little bit about it, and when I'm done in the comments, leave your thoughts. What do you think? In the meantime, let's hit the road and let's start talking. All right. So all the hubbub going across many vlogging channels and media has been that Polaris has spun off Indian. And of course the question is that a good thing or a bad thing? And honestly, it's just too early to tell. The final sale won't be until the first quarter of next year, 2026. Now, you have to understand that Indian as a brand has had a very unfortunate history. And what I mean by that is that it's been handed off like a cheap prom date. And it really wasn't until recently that it became actually profitable again. Like, I think the last earnings statement was like the first year that Indian was actually profitable. So people are really anxious to see what the 2025 earnings statements are going to look like now that Polaris has actually spun them off. But with that being said, Polaris hasn't lost anything by spinning Indian off. What I mean by that is Polaris as a whole, is a big company. They've got all the side-by-side market and stuff like that. And so Indian Motorcycles was only 7% of their revenue. So Indian literally was walking the razor's edge, all the time anyway, because Polaris could spin them off any given moment and not break a sweat over it. But with that, I kind of want to bounce back in history and just kind of give you a 30,000 foot view of what has happened with Indian. It's pretty common knowledge anymore, but I'm sure there's a few people that don't know or don't understand. And you could do a deeper dive into this on your own. I'm just kind of bouncing numbers. So Indian, of course, starts off as a bicycle company, I think in like 1897 or something like that. 1901, they actually become Indian Motorcycles. In 1902, I think they actually sold their first motorcycle. And if memory serves, Indian was the first motorcycle company to come out with the V-twin model. And some of you can correct me, but I want to say that's 1906. And Indian actually does a really good job of taking care of itself for a good long while. Harley Davidson, of course, by this time is making its name in the world of motorcycles. And so this age-old American rivalry is coming up. It's full swing. And then World War II hits, and both Indian and Harley Davidson are making motorcycles. Harley Davidson famously is making the WLA. Indian is making the Scout. And Actually, they actually had a paratrooper model of a motorcycle too. I believe Bikes and Beards or SRK Cycles, I mean Sean, the same guy that does both of them, I think he actually has a video about that. So anyway, after World War II, Indian suffers a severe decline in sales, and in 1953 ceases operations, and they just shut their doors. Now, between 1953 and 2011, this is where the switch of hands kind of starts to happen. Indian is dead from 1953 until 1999, when some investment company out in Gilroy, California decides that it wants to try to revive it and call it Gilroy's Indians. I'm sorry, that's just gay sounding. I mean, like, that is just horrible. Why would you do that? And that lasted until 2003. And then in 2006, there was another attempt to revive it, I believe in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And I don't know how long that lasted, but I know that it was there. I've seen it in various other posts online. But in 2011 is when Indian is actually set to make its comeback. And that's when Polaris bought it. Now, of course, Polaris at this time is already making Victory motorcycles. And so now you have a problem. You have one mother company, Polaris, making opposing brands of motorcycles. How did anyone think that was going to work? Well, it wasn't. That's why Victory got the axe and Polaris put all of its weight into making Indian. So Victory is the motorcycle that actually prompted Harley-Davidson to try to be good again. That kicked Harley-Davidson in the butt and said, hey, we can make an American bike better, and Harley-Davidson had to answer the call. Now, a lot of the Victory bones, if you will, went into the new Indian production and design. And that made Indian just really cool at the very beginning. But here we are, you know, the early competition, that competition is now back. With that being said, Indian and Harley have been going after it pretty solidly. So now Polaris has spun off Indian again. So now what's going to happen to Indian? Well, my personal thought is that it's not going to go away like it did in 1953 or in 1999 or in 2006, whichever years you want to count there of when they came and went. And the only reason why I say I don't think it's going to go away like it did before is because it is profitable. It became profitable this last 1 or 2 years, where it might not be worth it just to let it die. But they sold it to a equity firm, and it's a real estate firm out of California, or at least it deals primarily with real estate. These equity firms, they're not into production, they're not into research and development, they're into squeezing every last bit out of an IP that they can until there's nothing left, and then they proceed to absolutely just kick it to the curb and let its corpse rot on the side of the road. So, Indian has gone through a lot of changes, and it appears like it's going to go through more change. But there's a plot twist here that is pretty exciting. And that plot twist is a guy named Mike Kennedy. Who is Mike Kennedy? He is going to be the new CEO of Indian Motorcycles. The new independent Indian Motorcycles. Now I gotta say that when Polaris spun off Indian, they chose to retain a small minor percentage. That's kind of, which is kind of, you know, it's not weird, but at the same time, it kind of tells you that Polaris is still in this for the money, right? They're still going to try to squeeze money out of this thing. But this Mike Kennedy, he's got over 30 years of experience in the motorcycling industry. CEO of Vans and Hines, CEO of Motor On, Rev On, I don't know, one of those, a company like that, and also various leadership roles in Harley Davidson. So when Polaris spun all this off, they spun off everything. The factories, the manufacturing, the dealership network, everything. And when they did that, that's when they hired this new CEO. Now, so you got this equity firm that's got a hold of Indian, and it could just destroy it and milk it down to nothing. Or, under the leadership of this new CEO, Indian might continue to grow, become more profitable, and just be awesome. And I think that's what everybody wants. I hope that's what everybody wants. That's what would be good for the market. But concerning the market for motorcycles is soft, really soft. And I mean, how can it not be? I don't know of anyone in my circle, like I don't have a big circle, by the way, but people that I know in my age group that have disposable income aren't willing to dispose $25,000 to $45,000 on a motorcycle. They're just not. And people who are younger, say like my sons who are raising families, trying to live life, they're not going to spend that much money on a motorcycle. And, you know, honestly, it's kind of hard for them to justify spending anything on a motorcycle. When you consider that motorcycles, the way we do them in our culture, in our society, isn't to do them as a primary mode of transportation, but just as a toy. I don't know, you know, I didn't start riding until I was in my early 50s. Because I knew that my money needed to go elsewhere. So, in the end, what does this mean for Indian? Like I said, right now, no one knows. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Too early to tell. Indian might succeed, it might just wither away again. It has a habit of withering away, and that's sad. But I hope with this new CEO, it gets better, stronger, and actually keeps going, keeps putting the pressure on Harley Davidson and even other manufacturers to just be better. But the market is soft. New riders are fewer and fewer. And honestly, there just isn't the desire for this, that what I'm doing right now, for what you're seeing right now, that there used to be. I like it, but I tell you what, I don't see very many on the road. I mean, this is, to me, this is prime motorcycling right here. Look at this canyon I'm coming into. 2-lane road, no obstructions, can see for miles. I absolutely love this type of riding. You know, I'm on a cruiser for a reason. I don't live in a canyoned area. I don't need a canyon carver. Something that I can sit back on and enjoy and relax. I like it. As a Victory rider, this acquisition or this sales, transfer, whatever, is interesting to me because it makes me wonder, what does this do to my value of my bike? I mean, Victory's already got tanked. When Polaris put out Indian, if you owned a Victory at that point in its heyday, your value of your Victory got crushed. It got absolutely hammered when they put out the Indian. Then of course they had to quit making Victory if they were going to muscle in on Indian, and Victory's support is waning. It's weak. And that's just going to get worse. And does the value, since nobody's taking care of Victory, is that going to just make Victory disappear, be a footnote in the history of motorcycles that was kind of cool for a while and then just got kicked to the curb like a stray dog? I mean, I don't know. Probably. At some point, you're going to see Victories in motorcycle museums, I'm pretty sure. But that's why I bought a Victory, honestly, is because it's a great American brand, V-twin, and this 2013, with only 19,000 miles when I bought it, was $5,500 out the door. I mean, my goodness. That is a value that even a newer generation rider could get into. And it's fully functional, has ABS. I mean, it's just a good bike and a good brand. And so when you can buy a bike like this, and even if you want a full dresser like its cross-country cousin, the full fairing, you're still only looking at $6,500 to $7,500 RPM. $6,500 to $7,500. I mean, it's just good value. So why would you spend $25,000, $35,000 unless you're that guy that has to have the latest tech and the latest trinkets and toys? Which I'm not that guy. This has just what I want on it and nothing more. So anyway, that came out a bit more, I feel like that came out a bit more convoluted than I wanted it to. This should be an interesting edited video. I hope it works out. But that was just some initial thoughts. A brief history of Indian, why it's got a habit of disappearing, and I hope it doesn't disappear again. I truly hope that this new CEO doesn't just milk it till it's dead. I hope that they make it better, and I hope that they make it profitable, and I hope that we get a new generation of riders in. Because motorcycling, at the end of the day, is just great. Whether you're doing a solo, whether you're solo like I am most of the time, or whether you have someone to ride with, or whether you're in a club, whether you're local riding, bar hopping, or cross-countrying, motorcycling is just the best. And there's nothing like it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If all I had was my cage, I would not be out here doing these rides. I wouldn't. It's no fun driving in a car sightseeing. It's so much better, even with full helmet, full gear, it's so much better on a bike. There's really no way to explain it. You have to experience it. And if you disagree and you don't like it, then hey, at least you can say you tried. And that's what I hope everyone does. But with that, I mean, that's it. That's the end of this video. I know it wasn't super educational, probably didn't tell you nothing new, but that's just my thoughts on it. It could go one of two ways. They can either destroy it or they can build it, and I hope with this new CEO they build it. Anyways, I'm going to do a different setup now. hopefully not get myself run over, because now I want to try to do a ride-only video with sound. We'll see how that works out. Talk to you later, all. Be good.